We are going to get started. Yeah, thank you. We're going to get started, and my name is Linda Gijssen. I'm a teacher educator at Utrecht University FLOT in Tilburg, which is in the southern part of the Netherlands. And in addition, I'm carrying out my PhD research project at the University of Utrecht, and I'm doing this in cooperation with the Ticola project. In this presentation, based on insights of exchanges between Dutch and German secondary school students, I'm going to talk about how teachers can engage their learners in online intercultural communication. Yeah? Any teacher observing his or her students in collaborating or participating in collaborative activities in the classroom is aware of differences between learners in terms of their interest and involvement. So one pair might be completely off task, whispering about the weekend, while another small group might be compliant, yet paying little attention. A third pair might be hunched over pieces of paper, scribbling down ideas, asking one another questions, intent on solving a problem, or in my case, carrying out a task successfully. It should be clear from these brief examples that when we talk about learning, it's important that students are engaged and that we know that some student activity is more effective for learning than others. And this also goes for online learning. I'm carrying out a PhD project on task engagement, and basically I'm interested in how students engage with foreign language learning tasks within the context of an intercultural classroom. And what I'm doing is I study, and I'm going to show you here, I study task engagement on 3 levels: behavioral, cognitive, and attitudinal. So basically, I look at what students do, what they think, and how they feel when they execute a task. And the students who participated in the research project all came from mainstream or bilingual secondary education, and some of them will share their experiences with us today. Yeah, and they are going to do a great job today. Yes. Today I'm going to talk about the third exchange in particular, but I've coached 3 exchanges, and as you can see on the slide, 2 of them took place with upper secondary school students, and 1 of them took place with younger students. And students came from bilingual education in the first and in the second exchange, and from mainstream in the third exchange. When students collaborated, they worked online from their home computers, and we used different tools. So some of them used the forum in Moodle, but we also used a synchronous conference room called Big Blue Button, and in the final exchange, they collaborated together in the Ticola virtual world, and you have already seen parts of the virtual world this morning. Throughout the exchanges, English was used as a pedagogical lingua franca, and there was an ongoing coaching collaboration between us, the Ticola members, and the teachers, a Dutch teacher and a German teacher, in each respective exchange. Early onward in the first exchange, we noticed that it was worthwhile to familiarize the students with the task, or at least the task topic, before the actual online meeting. Simultaneously, we also noticed that it was important to evaluate student performance right after the task. And that's what we did using teacher talks, using group discussions, but also using worksheets. This all led to a blended approach in which the teachers combined face-to-face tasks with online tasks in, for example, the virtual world. And the teachers also applied a task-based approach to their task design. So they used a pre-task, a main task or in-task, and post-tasks. In this presentation, I'm going to focus in particular on online intercultural communication as an essential part of student activity when they engage with tasks. And it's very important to keep in mind that all these intercultural encounters took place within the pedagogical context of the obligatory language classroom. If we go to the tasks, we see that in each exchange, teachers designed 3 tasks for their students, depending on their context. So in the first exchange that took place in December 2017, they chose to talk about Christmas as a topic. So it was a contrast and compare activity, and it's interesting to note here that the Dutch and the German teacher decided to design the tasks before the first meeting took place, give them to the students, and give them a lot of autonomy in how to deal with them. In the second exchange, we saw that the teachers only designed task 1 and task 2, and then they gave their learners the freedom to decide on a topic for the third task. And then the Dutch students came up with creating a vlog activity because they wanted to get to know their partners better, and worked really well. In the third exchange, which is the final and which is still ongoing for some students at this moment, students worked at the beginning of this year on a learning path, which you have also seen this morning in the Tikala virtual world. And now they are working on a third and final task, which is all about a self-chosen topic. And for your information, the students collaborating in this exchange all have to do an oral exam in May. So the Dutch students have to give a presentation on a global issue, and the German students, they have to practice their conversational skills in an oral test as well. So we try to make this task part of their curriculum. For today, the main insights come from what we saw happening in the third exchange in the Tikala virtual world, and students who will talk about their experiences will also reflect on how they felt, what they did, and what they thought when participating in the virtual world. It's there where we collected data, a lot of data, so we recorded sessions and we interviewed students, but we also worked with reflective worksheets with a special focus for today on online intercultural communication. If you look at this slide, you can see that at the heart of this exchange, but I believe at every exchange, was task organization. So this is what teachers talked about in the first meeting. So what are we going to do? When are we going to do it? With whom are we going to do it? And they used pre and post tasks to scaffold their students in 3 main areas. The first one had to do with linguistic communicative means of expressions. So before the first meeting in November, the teachers talked about useful language in class. So in small groups, they talked about vocabulary, phrases, collocations students could use when meeting their partner for the first time. The same happened with the reflective task. There was a chance to talk about task performance. Another area teachers provided coaching on had to do with rapport building. So they explicitly talked in class, and again, also in small groups, about what it means to collaborate successfully. So what does successful teamwork look like? And they address topics like being open about stuff, having a cooperative attitude. But they also talked about, okay, sometimes you can encounter a situation in which you're not quite sure what to do or what to say, and it can feel awkward. But what can you do then to solve this potential problem? What can you say? What can you do? And last but certainly not least, teachers talked with students, but also it was incorporated in worksheets about raising learning awareness. So all these students who participated had a goal. They wanted to get a good grade for the oral exam, and they wanted to practice their conversational skills, their fluency, enlarge their vocab. Some wanted to focus on pronunciation, but also in terms of intercultural encounters, they wanted to speak with a foreigner, a real person, someone who was also learning the language. They wanted to get to know this person and discuss topics from a global perspective. As you see now, this is a lot of theory, and I thought it was important not for me to talk about what we did with these learners, but to let these learners themselves share their experience with you And we're going to start with the first person who's going to do that. His name is Stu. As you see now, this is a lot of theory, and I thought it was important not for me to talk about what we did with these learners, but to let these learners themselves share their experience with you. And we're going to start with the first person who's going to do that. His name is Steun. Steun comes from the Netherlands, but he will introduce himself. And I'm going to give you the floor, and you can start your part of this presentation.
Hello everyone, I'm Teun. I'm going to tell you something about my experience with the Color Project. First, I'm going to tell you something about me as a foreign language learner. I'm 16 years old and I'm in the 5th grade of pre-academic education. My class is one of the mainstream classes in the south of the Netherlands. My English level is around the B2 level. I thought it was a great chance to improve my speaking skills and to meet new people. Me as a person, I'm a very talkative person and I like to meet new foreign people. I'm also very interested in other cultures. Second, I'm going to talk about why did I participate? I like to meet new people and I also want to improve my speaking skills and my fluency. We have an oral exam this term at school, so I thought it was also nice to practice a little bit, so I get a higher grade. Uh, I'm also a little bit nervous right now. Maybe you see it, so I just try. Um, Next, what was important for me when carrying out the task? I was linked to Maximilian, a German boy. He's also 16 years old. And we both were very nervous at the beginning. So for me, it was important to express myself clearly and that the other person knows what I mean. So he understands me. Uh, I thought it was helpful to create a comfortable atmosphere so you both can learn more and you are allowed to make some mistakes. So I thought that was a great solution. After that, I'm going to tell you something about my challenges. At the beginning I don't know what to expect. I don't know where I'm beginning, so it was a little bit difficult to participate in it. I thought it was a little bit different to create a strong relationship because you don't really see the other person. You only see it in a video conversation. So I thought it was a little bit hard to create a good relationship. But I noticed it all goes smooth. So we just talk with each other and we get to know each other. So we are becoming friends. Um, it was also a challenge for me to get the right vocabulary. So we talked about, for example, pollution. I thought it was a little bit hard to get the topic related vocabulary. So that's why I quickly looked some words on Google Translate and I prepare myself. Sometimes I could do better, but that, then I'm going to talk about my opportunities, why I participated. I thought it was a great chance to meet new people, a German boy, to learn something about his culture and the school system in Germany. So that's one of the reasons I participate and one of the big opportunities. And I'm also very glad to improve my speaking skills and improve fluency. So with a presentation on school, it goes a little bit better than now, hopefully. And now the next question. How did I help my partner to engage in online intercultural communication? Maximilian and I were very nervous at the beginning. I just thought, see how things go, but Maximilian was very nervous. So I helped him to just talk and see how things go. I also make some mistakes, so maybe he saw when I do not everything perfect, maybe he thinks, oh, he's not the only one who fails sometimes. So I think that's one of the reasons it all goes very good. That was my experience.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Good job. And now we move on to Esther. Esther.
Hello, everybody. First, I'll introduce myself. My name is Esther. I'm 16 years old, and I'm also in the 5th year of pre-academic education. And my English level is also around B2. So, why did I participate in this project? Well, I really like it to do just projects other than just learning from my school books, because I think that's very boring. And it also was great opportunity for me to improve my English, because I think that can a little bit better. So then my partner during the project was Moritz. He was very nice, but he wasn't very talkative. So sometimes it was very hard to keep the conversation going, because when there was a silence, I had to be the one to ask another question, and he didn't really ask additional questions. So sometimes that was very hard, but he was very nice and I felt comfortable with him. So what was important for me? Well, important for me was just have a nice conversation with my partners, so that I could make myself understood and that we could really discuss the topics. So yeah, we would understand each other and that we could express ourselves. And I think that went very well and that we completed the assignment successfully. Then there were some challenges, of course. I think the biggest challenge was to speak with someone I had never met before, because like if you come by someone, then in normal you just speak to each other, but online it was like an obligation to get to know each other, and that made it a little bit hard. But I think we both were very enthusiastic, so yeah, that was very nice. Of course, there also have been some opportunities. I think the biggest opportunity for me was to improve my English. Because when I don't know a word, I can just say it in my native language, and I have to describe it because, he speaks another language. So, but of course, that's a great way to learn English. Um, what could my partner have done more to help me? Well, I think he could have helped me more with keep the conversation going, because he didn't really ask additional questions, and then every time I had to ask him another question, and that was a little bit hard, but it also was very nice. And what could my teacher have done more for me? I don't think she could have done anything more, because like we had her number and we could call her or text her every time of day, and then she would call us and help us and explain everything. And before the first meeting, me and all the other students came together and we wrote down all the challenges, like when you don't know a word or when there is an awkward silence. And we also came like with solutions, like when there was a silence, we had wrote down a lot of questions, so we could always ask something new. And when you don't know a word, just that we open translate on another page, so we could quickly look up the words. So thank you for your attention.
If it's okay, I'm going to continue. So what do we take from this? Because it's very interesting what these students have told us, but we've gathered some main insights from this exchange. And it's interesting to share these with you before you can ask questions. So basically what we saw is that students were involved in online intercultural communication when they were familiar with the topic and when they saw its relevance, so in a global topic. As a global topic. So sometimes students said, okay, we are not quite fond of talking about waste avoidance, but we see its relevance and we are curious about our partner's perspective on the matter. We also saw that it was important for students to be aware of the task's potential for their own learning. So for example, it helps me to get more fluent, or I learn new vocab. It was important for them to be equipped with the necessary linguistic knowledge and skills. So having the right vocab, having the right phrases helped them to enter a deeper conversation. We also saw that it was very important for them, and I think Teun explained it really well, when they were able to establish rapport with their partner. And last but certainly not least, the data also showed that when they were able, or when they did ask for support, offered support, and accepted peer support, for example, in terms of talking about language, or when you don't know a word and you can ask for it and your partner can help you, that this contributed to the conversation. All in all, what can teachers take from this? Well, teachers can engage their learners who participate in telecollaboration in this type of communication by designing tasks that are interesting for them, and specifically from a global perspective if you want to have this intercultural conversation. Providing students with topic options, because we saw in the second task that it might be a good thing to give them a choice in the third one, because when they are more engaged and more involved, if they actually like the topic, that's important. The third one is that it's good to discuss a task potential in class, and especially in reference to your remark previously with these older students, they really wanted to know, okay, why am I doing this? What do I want to learn? Do I understand what needs to be done? What can I gain from this? And in best case scenario, it should be fitted in the curriculum, and that's what we did in the final exchange as well. Teachers can also discuss the linguistic communicative means of expression in class, so provide your students with useful language. Because if you don't do that, for example, in the first task, it was a getting to know each other task, most of them said it was really safe to talk about things you already know and use words you are familiar with. But in the waste avoidance task, they were pushed to use other vocab as well. And discussing rapport building as a strategy for successful communication. Yeah, it should be clear that these findings come from case studies that have been carried out in a specific pedagogical context. So based on other contexts, so if you have learners that have other ages, other proficiency and stuff like that, it could be that this would lead to other results. Nevertheless, it's important to see what is possible under these circumstances so that teachers can design good telecollaborative tasks for their learners and subsequently design pedagogical interventions to maximize their learners' intercultural communication. And this was my talk. Thank you for the extra time.
Right, we have time for questions.
Yes, and also Teun and Esther are more than willing to answer questions as well. If you, yes, we've prepared that, and they want, maybe not now, but you can ask me questions, but more
We
questions.
have questions from the online audience.
No, we don't.
No?
Oh,
No, more than questions, they're comments. One of the people says the students are great.
Yay.
Another one says, so proud of these students, they did a great job.
they did.
Another one says they did very well, and something about an epic high five. And one said, awesome presentation. I suppose that's for all three of you.
Thank you.
And another one said, you know, the bit about one of the students not being very talkative, that would, you know, maybe require some thought about pairing, you know. And another one mentioned that we should provide them with strategies and prepare them for diversity. So, okay. So basically, there were comments more than questions.
Yeah, thank you.
I thought.
Any more questions? Good.
That was a dangerous one. Okay. No, I would like to ask two questions which came up this morning when we talked about these things. One question, and it's the question to both of you, Teun and Esther. The first question was whether this pedagogical lingua franca approach, namely that you communicated with a German partner in English instead of with a native speaker, how you felt about this, whether this was positive or maybe a native speaker would have been better This is one question. The second question, yeah, you can answer both. The second question concerns working from home, because this also came up, whether you felt comfortable with working from home. Okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah. So maybe start with the second question about working from home.
I just the task I did it on during school time. So for me, it was a great chance when I have a study hour for myself. I go just to a speaking room and there I meet Maximilian. So it was a great chance opportunity to meet him during school time.
yeah, and I met him well at home, so I think that was very nice because you can just choose an own time, and yeah, you don't have the times on school.
Yeah, and it might be interesting also for the audience to talk about how you felt when you were home alone in your room, because we talked about it. What was the difference between meeting in a computer room with other classmates and meeting on your own?
I think it was much nicer to just meet him at home because, like at school, when you're in a computer room, there are a lot more people, and then you have to be more quiet. And yeah, so I think it's nicer to be home.
Yeah. And yes, did you get the question regarding the lingua franca? No. So yeah, in the morning program, we talked about the fact that it is important for students to talk with someone who is also learning the language. So, and the question I think basically is, did you mind talking to a German learning English, or would you have preferred to having a conversation with someone from the UK or?
No, I don't really. No.
I prefer instead the German because he's also learning, so we both make mistakes. And if I talk to an English guy or girl, I think I'm better under pressure, so I would better. I'm maybe afraid to make mistakes, and I think when I'm talking to a German, he's also learning the language, so we both make mistakes.
Any more questions?
Oh my
I will come.
Heel goed. Graag heel goed.
I can't throw that far.
Thank you. Question for both of you. Did your ideas about the Germans change talking to?
No.
Question? No?
I think they're on the same level as we are. Yeah, I think we are better on a little bit higher level on English than they are, but I think there's not a big issue. We both learn about it.
Will there be a possibility to meet Maximilian in person?
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was wondering whether this would also be possible on a lower level of proficiency. Now you could improvise a little bit because you're quite fluent already in English, but what about beginners? So that's a question to you.
Yeah, it's also possible, but again, depending on the task and the tools you're going to use and which skill you're going to practice. So my colleagues from Link talked about it this morning. I think you can do it at various levels, and the exchange before this one was actually with 13 and 14 years old. They were in a bilingual stream, so they were, I think, approximately B1, so that's quite high, but there are also exchanges taking place with A2 level students. Yeah.
Another question to both of you. If I'm right, you communicated both in a virtual world and through video conferencing. Is that correct? Yes. Which one did you prefer, or what were the positive and negative sides of both of the environments?
Well, I preferred Big Blue Button because then you see each other and then you can really see each other's reactions. And in the virtual world, it's like a game. So I think it's a little less serious than Big Blue Button.
I also prefer Big Blue Button. but the virtual world is actually a really nice place. But I think the video conversation was a little bit easier because you really see each other and you can build a relationship. So you really have a picture of him and you can have a natural conversation.
Okay, I understand. Were there any advantages of the virtual world as compared to, because now you described the advantages of the video conferencing environment. Any advantage of the virtual world as well?
I think if you're very nervous, it can be more easy to speak because you don't see each other, so you don't see your reaction if you don't know what if you become red or nervous or it will be a little bit easier.
It's more like hiding behind a mask, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yep. And in addition to your question, we also saw that the Tikala virtual world gave students content to talk about. So some said it was a very structured environment because we moved on from one board to the other and we had actual content. We didn't have to think about what to say next. Yeah, and in reference to a previous question on the level, I said it depends on the tools, but I think also when you decide to use asynchronous or synchronous communication, that synchronous is more difficult. So if you, for example, practice speaking skills, that is for the more proficient learner, but not for the beginners.
I was wondering, doing this from home obviously makes the assignment more safer, but it creates other risks as well. Is there, what kind of supervision was there? Was there any?
And which risks do you have in mind?
Well, going off topic would be the simplest one. It could be worse, obviously. It is video.
Yeah, but is it a bad thing, do you think?
Well, it's you're dealing with children, right? Yeah. So, and it is video. Am I the doom scenario?
Yeah, but that might be interesting to talk about later because we have seen various recordings and some students, they didn't stay on topic, but they practiced their skills.
But it is recorded then?
Yes, it is recorded. So to lower the risks, we used Moodle. So the big blue button room was within Moodle. So students had a password and only they could enter. They recorded the sessions for research purposes, but a teacher could also let them record the session for post-task activities. But yeah, when they are at home, you give them more autonomy to decide if they are going to talk for 20 minutes or 45 minutes. And it's possible that they, get off task.
And extremely inappropriate behavior?
I haven't seen that. Yeah, sorry. We need to, I have not seen that, but thank you.
We will discuss about it.
Yeah.
During the round table. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the